A samurai was about to be beheaded. The enemy's sword was descending toward his neck. At that crucial instant, instead of defending himself, he became completely still. Madness. Surrender. No. The master who witnessed the scene said, "Today I have seen the true nature of water. Welcome to Zen Tales. I am your narrator, and today I will share a story that will forever change the way you understand action, the mind, and the true meaning of spontaneity." This is the true story of Takeshi, a warrior obsessed with perfection, who had to unlearn everything he knew in order to become invincible. In the northern mountains of Japan, during the Edo period, there existed a legendary dojo known as the House of Still Water. It was not the largest or the most famous, but the warriors who emerged from it possessed something others did not: an unshakable calm in the midst of chaos. Takeshi arrived there at the age of 22. He was already considered an exceptional swordsman. He had studied under 3 different masters, memorized more than 100 katas, and could recite classical military strategy texts from memory. But Takeshi had a problem. He thought too much. In every fight, his mind was a storm. Will he attack from the right? Should I feint? Which technique would work best? 1,000 thoughts in a single second. And although he won most of his duels, something inside him whispered that he was not yet complete as a warrior. When he arrived at Master Kenzo's dojo, he introduced himself with pride. "Master, I have come to perfect my technique. I wish to learn your most advanced secrets." Master Kenzo, a 70-year-old man with eyes that seemed to see straight through people, observed him in silence for a long moment. "What is the most important thing in combat?" he finally asked. Takeshi answered without hesitation. "Perfect strategy, executed with absolute precision." The master smiled faintly. "Then I cannot teach you anything. Everything you know must disappear first." Takeshi frowned, confused. "I don't understand, master. I have devoted years to learning." "Exactly," Kenzo interrupted. "You have filled your cup to the brim. How can I pour tea into a cup that is already full?" Master Kenzo led Takeshi to a mountain stream. Crystal clear water flowed effortlessly over the rocks, descending without resistance. "For the next month," the master said, "your training will consist of observing this stream. Nothing else." Takeshi couldn't believe it. "Observe water? Master, I came here to train, not to contemplate nature. Do you believe you are not training?" Kenzo scooped water into his hands. "The water does not think about where it should go. It does not hesitate over whether to go around a rock or flow over it. It simply flows. And yet, over time, water carves mountains." "But water has no enemies attacking it," Takeshi protested. "Oh, doesn't it?" The master pointed to a large rock in the middle of the stream. "That rock has been there for 1,000 years, blocking the water's path. And what has the water done? It has not attacked it with fury. It has not devised a complex strategy. It has simply flowed, second after second, day after day. Look at the rock now." Takeshi looked closely. The massive, imposing stone had been completely smoothed, nearly split in two by the persistence of water. "Sit here every morning at dawn," the master instructed. "Observe the water for 2 hours. Do not meditate. Do not analyze. Do not think. Just observe." And so began the most frustrating training of Takeshi's life. The first few days were mental torture. His mind refused to simply observe. He analyzed the water's patterns, counted the ripples, thought about sword techniques he could be practicing instead of sitting there. He wondered if the master was mocking him. But something began to change during the second week. One morning as he watched, Takeshi noticed something extraordinary. The water never hesitated. When it encountered an obstacle, it did not pause to think. It instantly found the path of least resistance. There was no separation between the problem and the solution. They were one and the same. And for the first time in years, Takeshi's mind fell silent. 1 month after his arrival, an unexpected event put everything Takeshi was learning to the test. A Ronin warrior named Hideaki arrived at the dojo. He was known for his brutality and his deadly skill with the sword. That year alone, he had defeated 17 opponents, killing 3 of them. Hideaki entered the dojo without ceremony or respect. "I've heard this is where you train the so-called water warriors," he sneered. "I've come to prove that water evaporates in the presence of fire." Master Kenzo remained seated, calm. "This dojo does not accept duels without purpose." "Then I'll give it purpose." Hideaki pointed directly at Takeshi. "Him. Tomorrow at noon. If you lose, this dojo will close its doors, and you will admit that your water philosophy is a fraud." Before Takeshi could respond, Master Kenzo spoke. "We accept." Hideaki smiled with satisfaction and left. Takeshi felt his heart race. He had not had time to prepare properly. He did not know Hideaki's fighting style. He had not practiced with a sword for an entire month. He had only watched water. That night, Takeshi could not sleep. His mind was chaos. Strategies, worries, fears. Should I attack first or wait for his move? What technique works against someone larger? What if the master has ruined my training with all this water philosophy? At dawn, eyes swollen from lack of sleep, Takeshi found Master Kenzo preparing tea. "Master, I need to practice. Give me instructions. Hideaki is dangerous and I—" "Sit," Kenzo interrupted, pouring 2 cups of tea. "Drink." Takeshi obeyed, though every cell in his body screamed for action, for preparation, for a plan. "Tell me," the master asked, "when the stream's water encounters a rock, does it stop the night before to think about how to overcome it?" "No, but does it analyze all the possible paths it could take?" "Master, this is different. This is life or death." Kenzo nodded slowly. "Exactly. And that is why it is even more important not to think." At noon, when Takeshi and Hideaki faced each other in the dojo courtyard, something extraordinary was about to happen. Takeshi held his sword, his mind still filled with doubt. Hideaki, confident and aggressive, smiled like a predator facing its prey. Master Kenzo gave the signal. And in that moment, Takeshi remembered something the master had said. The warrior who thinks has already lost the present. And the present is the only place where combat exists. What happened in the next 3 seconds challenged everything Takeshi believed he knew about combat. But before revealing that crucial moment, allow me to share something with you. At noon, as Takeshi and Hideaki faced each other in the dojo courtyard, something extraordinary was about to happen. Takeshi held his sword, his mind still filled with doubt. Hideaki, confident and aggressive, smiled like a predator before its prey. Master Kenzo gave the signal. And in that moment, Takeshi remembered something the master had once said. The warrior who thinks has already lost the present, and the present is the only place where combat exists. What happened in the next 3 seconds challenged everything Takeshi believed he knew about fighting. But before revealing that crucial moment, allow me to share something with you. If this story is resonating with you, if you feel that these Zen teachings have something important to say about your own life, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. Each week, we share stories like this, ancient parables that contain practical wisdom for modern challenges. These are not just stories. They are mirrors that help us see more clearly. And now, let us return to the duel that would change Takeshi's life forever. Hideaki attacked first, just as Takeshi had anticipated. A powerful, direct strike, designed to end the fight immediately. And this is where everything changed. Takeshi's mind, normally a whirlwind of analysis, suddenly became empty. He did not think about how to block. He did not calculate angles. He did not recall any technique. He simply moved. His body flowed to the side, like water moving around a rock. Hideaki's sword sliced through the air where Takeshi had been a fraction of a second earlier. Surprised by such fluid evasion, Hideaki adjusted his stance and attacked again, this time with a fast, precise lateral cut. Once again, Takeshi did not think. His sword rose, not to block directly, but to redirect the strike, using his opponent's force against him. Exactly as water uses gravity and slope, not resisting, but flowing with natural forces. The spectators watching held their breath. Now frustrated, Hideaki unleashed a furious barrage. 5, 10, 15 strikes in rapid succession. Each one deadly if it connected. And Takeshi evaded them all. But not like a warrior executing memorized techniques. He moved like smoke, like a breeze, like water itself. There was no separation between seeing the attack and responding to it. His body knew what to do without the mind interfering. Master Kenzo watched with a faint smile. He recognized what he was witnessing. The birth of a true warrior. After 2 minutes of frantic exchange, Hideaki was breathing heavily, drenched in sweat. Takeshi, by contrast, seemed calmer than when the duel had begun. Fight properly. Hideaki shouted in frustration. Stop running. But Takeshi was not running. He was being water. And then, in an instant no one could have predicted, it happened. Hideaki launched his most powerful attack, pouring all his strength into a downward strike that would have split Takeshi in two. And Takeshi did nothing. He did not block. He did not evade. He simply stepped forward, entering Hideaki's inner space before the sword could gain speed. His own blade came to rest gently against his opponent's neck. The duel was over. Hideaki froze, feeling the edge against his skin, unable to comprehend how he had lost. Takeshi withdrew his sword and bowed respectfully. Thank you for the lesson, he said simply. That night, Takeshi sat across from Master Kenzo, still processing what had happened. Master, I don't understand what I did, he said. It was as if someone else was controlling my body. Kenzo smiled broadly. Someone else was controlling it, your true self. The self that exists before thought, before fear, before doubt. He poured tea into 2 cups and continued. For years you trained your mind to be fast, to analyze, to plan. And that made you a good warrior. But no matter how fast the mind is, it can never be as fast as life itself. He took a sip of tea before continuing. Every thought takes time. When you see an attack and think, I must block, that thought creates a fraction of a second of delay. Then you think, how should I block? Another delay. Then, will this technique work? Another one still. In that same time, a warrior who does not think has already moved 3 times. Takeshi nodded slowly, beginning to understand. So, was all my previous training useless? No, Kenzo replied firmly. All that training now lives in your body. In your muscles, in your reflexes. You don't need to think about it because it already is part of you. The problem was that your mind did not trust that bodily memory. It insisted on supervising every movement. The master stood and walked toward the window, where moonlight illuminated the garden. True mastery arrives when knowledge moves from the mind into the body, and then beyond the body, until it becomes as natural as breathing. You do not think about how to breathe. You simply breathe. But master, Takeshi asked, how can one live like this all the time? In combat it was possible, but in daily life. Kenzo turned toward him with a deep gaze. Ah, but that is the true secret. This is not only about combat. It is about all of life. In the weeks that followed, Master Kenzo showed Takeshi how the principle of acting without thinking applied to every aspect of existence. One morning, while tending the garden, Kenzo asked him, have you ever noticed that your best conversations are the ones where you don't plan what you're going to say? Takeshi reflected. It was true. When he spoke spontaneously from the heart, his words flowed naturally. But when he tried to prepare them in advance, they sounded forced, artificial. It is the same, the master explained. When you allow words to flow without interference from the calculating mind, they express your true nature. They are authentic. Another day, they watched a child playing in the nearby village. The child jumped between puddles after the rain, completely absorbed in the game, laughing for no apparent reason. "Look," Kenzo said. "That child does not think, 'Now I am going to have fun,' or 'Should I jump in this puddle or the other one?' He is simply in the moment. That is the mind without thinking. We adults have complicated everything," he continued. "We think about thinking. We worry about worrying. We plan our enjoyment, which is absurd. How can you plan spontaneity?" Takeshi began to notice this pattern everywhere. When he helped cook without thinking about the instructions, the food turned out better. When he walked through the mountains without planning his route, he discovered the most beautiful places. When he practiced calligraphy without thinking about each stroke, his characters had more life. "Master," Takeshi asked one day, "does this mean we should never plan? Should we never think?" Kenzo chuckled softly. "That would be a clumsy interpretation. Thought has its place. When you need to solve a complex problem, when you must make an important decision that will affect your future, use your mind. Intelligence is a gift. But do not confuse thinking with worrying. Do not confuse planning with obsession. And above all, do not allow thought to interfere with living." He sat on a bench in the garden and continued. "The mistake most people make is that they live inside their heads. They are always thinking about the past or the future. Why did I say that yesterday? Or, what will happen tomorrow if? And meanwhile, real life, the only moment that truly exists, passes by unnoticed." Takeshi felt something deep resonate within him. So acting without thinking does not mean acting without wisdom. "Exactly," Kenzo confirmed. "It means acting from a place deeper than superficial thought, from intuition, from knowledge that lives in your entire being, not just in your head. It is like learning to ride a horse. At first, you think about every movement. How to hold the reins, how to balance, how to coordinate your legs. But when you have truly learned, all of that disappears. You and the horse become one. You no longer think, 'Now I must do this.' You simply do it." The story of the samurai Takeshi reminds us that true mastery in any area of life does not come from accumulating more knowledge, but from allowing that knowledge to integrate so deeply that we no longer need to think about it. If these teachings are helping you see your life with new eyes, I invite you to become part of our community. Subscribe to Zen Tales, activate notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we are creating a space where ancient wisdom illuminates modern challenges. And now, let me tell you about the most important moment in Takeshi's transformation. 3 years after his arrival at the dojo, Takeshi had become one of the most respected instructors. He taught others what he had learned, the path of water, action without thought. But Master Kenzo knew there was one final lesson remaining. One night, while everyone slept, Kenzo silently entered Takeshi's room with his sword drawn. He moved like a shadow and attacked. Takeshi, sleeping deeply, opened his eyes just as the blade descended toward him. With no time to think, no time to plan, his body simply rolled to the side. The master's sword stopped inches from the floor. Takeshi sat up, his heart racing, confused. "Master, what?" Kenzo sheathed his sword and smiled broadly. "Congratulations. Now you have truly learned." "Learned what?" Takeshi asked, still disoriented. "Response without thought, even from sleep. When I attacked, you had no time to think. The master is attacking me. I must defend myself. Your body simply responded. That is the true nature of water. Perfect response without deliberation." He sat beside Takeshi and explained, "You see, there are levels of mastery. The first is unconscious incompetence. You do not know, and you do not know that you do not know. The second is conscious incompetence. You become aware of what you do not know. The third is conscious competence. You can do something, but you must think about it. The fourth level, the highest, is unconscious competence. You can do it without thinking, even without being fully conscious. Today, you reached that level. Takeshi felt tears in his eyes, not of sadness, but of deep recognition of something he had been searching for his entire life without knowing it. Master, does this mean my training is finished? Kenzo laughed softly. Training never ends. But your learning as a student is complete. Now you are a teacher who will continue learning for the rest of your life. He stood to leave, then paused at the doorway. Remember, what you have learned here is not a combat technique. It is a way of living. Apply it to everything, when you speak with others, when you make decisions, when you face challenges. Do not overthink. Trust that deeper wisdom you now know exists. The river does not worry about reaching the ocean. It simply flows. And yet, it always arrives. Dear friends, the story of Takeshi is more than an ancient parable. It is a mirror in which we can see ourselves. How many times are we paralyzed by overthinking? How many opportunities do we miss because we analyze instead of act? How many beautiful moments slip away because our minds are too busy judging, comparing, worrying? Acting without thinking does not mean being impulsive or irresponsible. It means trusting the wisdom you already possess. It means allowing your years of experience, your intuition, your true nature to express themselves without the constant interference of a fearful, doubting ego. Consider this. How many times have you made a decision with your mind that turned out badly, while your intuition was telling you something else? How many times have you overanalyzed a situation until you became frozen, when what you truly needed was simply to act? Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind there are few." He meant this. When we believe we know too much, the mind closes. It judges the new through the lens of the old. But when we empty the cup, when we let go of the need to control and think through every step, we open ourselves to the spontaneous, perfect response that arises from the moment itself. Life is like a duel. Important moments happen quickly. There is no time for mental committees, for internal debates over every option. The parent who saves a child from danger does not think. The artist at their peak does not analyze every stroke. The speaker who truly moves others speaks from the heart, not from a memorized script. Here is the paradox. The more you trust in not thinking, the more wisely you act. So I leave you with a question, my dear friend. What would happen if, just for today, you trusted a little more in that silent knowledge that lives beneath your thoughts? What if, in your next important conversation, you allowed words to flow without pre-planning them? What if, when facing your next challenge, you acted from inner certainty rather than mental fear? You might discover that you are wiser than you think. You might discover that, like water, you already know how to flow. If this story has touched something within you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that illuminate the path. And above all, carry this teaching with you. Trust your inner river. It knows where to flow. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until the next tale. Namaste.